The views and opinions expressed on this channel are solely those of the host and guest and are intended for entertainment and discussion purposes only. This channel does not promote bias, hatred, or discrimination of any kind. All questions posed and thoughts shared are part of a critical thinking exercise and are not meant to offend or judge any individual or group. We encourage respectful dialogue and love for all. Please remember to think critically and engage thoughtfully. We aim to foster a positive and inclusive community where everyone feels welcome. Thank you for being a part of Risky Behavior ENT.
Risky behavior. Risky behavior.
Yo, what up, what up? Welcome back, Risky Behavior ENT. I am your host, Mr. Diabolical. Himself. I want to say happy Thanksgiving to everyone. Or happy day after Thanksgiving to everyone. Back to our regular scheduled program, and I say that because today I'm going to be getting into a very sad case. I hate to do it, but I got to get back on my job, and that is bringing awareness to crimes against children, because I am on the internet and everybody wants to be the victim. And when you have a situation where everybody wants to be the victim, a lot of times we ignore the real victims, which are children. Give me a second. I'm getting things set up still. There we go. All right. And now that that is taken care of. What's up, my brother? Mr. Marcus Banks in the building. How you doing, brother, man? Did you enjoy your Thanksgiving, man? Did you eat enough? Did you eat too much? Are you still in that coma that we give ourselves? We promise ourselves we're not going to eat that much every year, and yet we still do the same thing, man. Oh, man. Yeah, man, I'm having a beautiful day, man. I am, man. I feel good, man. You know what? I ate so much, and then I woke up early, and I was like, man, let me get up. Let me get my water, start drinking my water, man, start cleansing and flushing my system, right? And I was like, let me get my body moving. Hey, you still in the coma? Yeah, me too, man. I was eating at the house with the family. I went to my wife's family this year, and I remember after we ate, and somebody was like, so what we gonna do now? And I was like, what we gonna do now? I said, I'm probably gonna fall asleep now. They said, where you gonna fall asleep? I said, anywhere I sit down, I'm falling asleep. So I had to stand up after eating, man, and just move around, and get a little light exercise in. Man, I'm telling you, but I was eating so much, and then I ate that I saved the yams for last, and then oh my God, my mother-in-law pulled out the key lime cake, and then she had pecan pie. I said, oh my God, she's trying to take me out. I said, I can't, I gotta eat some of this. I at least gotta try it. So I said, just give me some thin slices, and that was all she wrote, man. That I was supposed to go see more family after that, and I said, man, forget this, man. I'm going home. I said I can't go nowhere, and because I was going to come home and go live, and then I sat down on the couch, and I started watching the rest of this movie with Nicolas Cage, The Season of the Witch, and I dozed off, man. Yeah, I dozed off after that. Let me see. Let me get my screen up. Share screen. Boom, boom, boom. All right. Boom. Also share system audio. Got it. All righty. What you said? That is where I went wrong. I should have moved around for an hour or two, but instead I sat down and went straight to sleep. That's how I get it, man. It's gonna get you every time when it comes to that, man. All right. If you're reading the title of today's video, it is Mom Didn't Protect Baby from Boyfriend. How do I? All right, so welcome back to Risky Behavior ENT. I am your host, Diabolical, and today we confront a case that shakes the very foundation of trust, family, and survival. October 2025, in Texas, a 3-year-old boy by the name of Dawson Cain Zamora now lies on life support after suffering unimaginable injuries. His mother's boyfriend, yes, mommy's boyfriend, Christopher Thomas Alexander, claims he simply heard a thud. Right. But the medical evidence tells a story of brutality, brain bleed, chest wounds, and trauma no child should ever endure. And we're going to get into those injuries because the mama's boyfriend say, oh, he just fell. I just heard a thud. But the evidence says differently. Now, this isn't just another headline. It's a mirror reflecting systemic failures, cultural denial, and the dangerous risks children face when adults betray their duty of protection. Slide to my other screen. Yeah, man. I just want to warn y'all, man. It's a sick world that we live in for sure. For sure, for sure. It's a sick world that we live in. Top boy on life support after brutal beating. Mom, boyfriend arrested. So a Texas mother and her boyfriend were arrested earlier this month. And my bad, this is an article from crimeonline.com. I like to tell y'all that y'all can look these things up on your own. And yes, I am a person that goes through the boring, I go through the articles, right? So, a Texas mom and a boyfriend were arrested earlier this month after her toddler son was brought to the hospital with severe brain trauma, including a brain bleed, bruising in various states of healing all over his body. And that suggests that, beatings have been going over a period of time, right? Wounds to his chest and abdomen and anal trauma. Okay. And I think everybody knows how you get things like that. Now, 3-year-old Dawson Cain Zamora is reportedly on life support at a hospital. Court documents say Christopher Thomas Alexander, the mother's 30-year-old boyfriend, brought Dawson to the hospital on October the 14th, saying he heard a thud and found the boy. But hospital staff said the injuries the child suffered did not match Alexander's claims and called police. And to me, when I hear something like that, just right off the bat, I'm thinking, okay, here's a guy, this is all allegedly what they say, but here's a person abusing a child, and then all of a sudden one day they take it too far, and now it's like, let me take him to the hospital. I just got to make up a story as to how this child got the injuries. Police spoke with the mother, 30-year-old Chelsea Renee Berg, however you say her middle name, who cares, who said she left the boy with Alexander at around 7:30 that morning, then later got a text from the boyfriend about Dawson eating lunch. But after lunch, she said he gave her a panicked phone call saying he was taking the child to the hospital. You know how I get with these mothers, man, and they boyfriends. I don't know how many stories we need. They just keep on with the same behavior. Berg said she rushed to the hospital where Alexander told her the same story about the thud he told hospital staff. Police showed Berg photos of her son's injuries, and she said she didn't have them when she said he didn't have them when she left for work that morning. We know there's got to be a lie because they found bruises on the boy's body that were old and new. They were in different stages of healing. Okay? Different stages of healing. Okay. Meanwhile, Alexander hired an attorney while at the hospital and refused to speak with the police. Alexander and Berg were both arrested 2 days later. Alexander is being held on $210,000 bond, charged with injury to a child, stalking and tampering, fabricating evidence with intent to impair an investigation. Berg was charged with injury to child and posted $100,000 bond the same day she was arrested. A condition of her release was that she have no contact with the boy. But on October the 19th, her attorney filed an emergency motion to modify the bond conditions after she was notified the child had no brain activity and was to be taken off life support. The motion requested supervised access so she could say goodbye to her son before he passes away. The boy's current condition is unknown. His biological father, Darian Zamora, told KFDA that his son has had no improvement. He has global brain damage and he's still on life support and has not improved, Zamora said. He was beaten so bad that he was beaten to death. And that's public knowledge of what I've already said Zamora. He did beat my son to death, that he did kill him. But when he got to the lobby of the medical center, McKinney, he was already dead. Medical staff resuscitated the boy, but he was placed on life support. Sad case. And who on earth could believe this mom? Like anybody out there with kids, you know, when you got a young kid, you know what's on their bodies, right? You got to help them bathe themselves. You have to lotion them up. You still are somewhat helping them put on their clothes. You know, you're helping them put on their clothes, tie their shoes, all this. The fact that this boy has bruises, old and new, in various states of healing, and a mother to pretend as if she didn't see them and she doesn't know is ridiculous. And we know it's a damn lie. Like, please, we're not believing that. We're not believing you at all. You're a liar. Okay. So police moved quickly after Dawson was rushed to the hospital. Alexander's explanation that he had heard a thud collapsed under the weight of medical reports showing deliberate harm. The mother, Chelsea Berg, was also arrested, accused of complicity and neglect. And so that's where we are currently. Let's move right along. Hold on, my bad.
A McKinney mother charged in a child abuse investigation wants to visit her son before he dies. Chelsea Berg and her boyfriend, Christopher Alexander, were charged with injury to a child. 3-year-old Dawson Zamora is on life support at a Dallas hospital. Alexander brought the boy to the hospital and claimed he was in another room when Alexander heard a thud and found the boy injured. Well, investigators say the extent of the boy's injuries were inconsistent with that explanation. Fox 4 Assignments editor Megan Boyd joins us now with an update in this case. Megan.
Yeah, Hannah, the little boy, as you mentioned, is Dawson Zamora, and I do want to show you his photo that we just received. I just got off the phone with his dad, who told me, unfortunately, they do not have positive news in terms of Dawson's condition. He's on life support, but doctors have told his dad, even if his son wakes up, they don't believe he will have any quality of life. His condition has not improved.
Now, Megan, we mentioned the boy's mom in this case.
And you see that baby. Come on, man. And on top of that, and I'm not making this no racist thing, but come on, it is a white baby. You're gonna see the bruises. Come on, mom. Don't lie to us.
Case. She's been asking a judge for permission to see Dawson to say her goodbyes. Has that permission been granted?
Yeah, so I just checked the court records again moments ago. As of right now, she still cannot come within 500 feet of Dawson. Now, Chelsea Berg is charged with injury to a child, and her bond conditions stated that she not have contact with him. And she filed, as you mentioned, an emergency motion to modify those bond conditions. Here's a piece of it that you're seeing here on the screen. She is asking to have a supervised visit before her son passes away. Now, it does not appear, again, that this motion was granted. And when I spoke to her ex-husband, Dawson's dad, he said that they have a lot of things going on in terms of who has power of attorney before they make any decisions about ending care for their son. But he says he hopes this judge does not grant the request.
Megan, can you explain what the court records show in terms of what exactly happened to Dawson?
Hannah, this is a tragic case. We got a copy of an arrest warrant affidavit.
And they always be saying like the child safer with the mom. They just be having too much rights. The fact that she can even file a motion to come see a child that she put in harm is insane to me.
For Christopher Alexander, that's Chelsea Berg's boyfriend. It states that Chelsea left Dawson in Chris's care. He called her at work frantically, saying that he was taking Dawson to the hospital. He told hospital staff that maybe the boy fell off the bed, but that he was in another room and just heard a thud. Hospital staff said that Dawson was dead when they got to the ER. They were able to revive him, but said that his injuries were not consistent with a fall. They talk about a brain bleed, along with several other extensive injuries and trauma to his body. Chelsea told police that Dawson was not injured in any way when she left for work this morning. So lots of questions still. One thing to note is that leaves up to question why Chelsea was ultimately arrested. We have requested her arrest affidavit as well. The court told me yesterday that it should be available by the end of this week. So hopefully that gives more details as to what happened to this little boy.
Just a heartbreaking situation. Well, Megan, we appreciate you for following this story.
She's a lying ass mofo. Liar. Talking about she ain't knew nothing. Look at this. Look at this article, just for anybody that just came in, right? Hospital staff noting the injuries inconsistent with what Alexander told the police, right? Talking about he just heard a thud. What kind of thud did he hear? Because when we look at the injuries, they include severe brain trauma with bleeding, widespread bruising, and various healing stages. So that's old and new bruising, which the mother says she just didn't see. She must have overlooked it. It didn't show up. Chest and stomach wounds. You see him. Somebody washing him up. Somebody's putting lotion on him, combing his hair, and she just don't see it right. And here's the other one. Anal trauma. So he never complained of pain. He never complained of hurting. Nothing of the set. Like, what the hell? Man, I appreciate you too, brother Marcus. Man, I appreciate you, brother. Thank you. Thank you so much, brother. Ms. Marcus says the system is set up to make the public believe that the child is better off in the mother's care than the father's, and that is not necessarily true. It is not, and stories like this proves it. All right. So the doctors revealed Dawson's injuries: a brain bleed, chest wounds, and anal trauma. These were not the results of a simple fall. They were the markers of sustained abuse, the kind of violence that strips away innocence and leaves scars, physical and psychological. That there lasts a lifetime. Unless in like this case you have a life cut short. All right. Let's get into some more articles. This one is more reiterating what the biological father said, so I won't read any more of that. Here's an article, Law and Crime Network. Some of these, my bad, I pulled up. Okay. This is more talking about doctors soon determined the boy was suffering from severe trauma, including a brain bleed, bruising in various stages of healing all over his body, wounds to the chest and stomach, and other injuries. According to law enforcement, such injuries were not consistent with a lone thud. Hospital staff determined, and local police were called. A warrant for Alexander's arrest was issued later that same day. When questioned by detectives, Berg relayed a narrative in which she left Dawson with her boyfriend at around 7:20 a.m. on the day in question, police say. Then she received a text about the boy eating lunch. Sometime after that, the boy's mother received a frantic phone call from Alexander about heading to the hospital, police say. At the hospital, Berg said she first heard about Alexander's claim of purported thud while the boyfriend was in another room. After the so-called thud, Alexander allegedly told Berg he found the boy injured. The child's mother said her boyfriend did not elaborate beyond that law enforcement claim. Alexander declined to speak with police at the hospital after obtaining a lawyer, according to an arrest affidavit obtained by KDFW. Why wouldn't he want to speak to the police? And I know people say you shouldn't even speak to the police if you're innocent, but I'm just saying, if he's this awesome caretaker, he's taking care of the boy, feeding him lunch and stuff like that, why would he just, I'm gonna need a lawyer at the hospital? Especially when you have a child, they're trying to work on them. Information that he may have could save the child's life. Why would he just clam up? Shut. Now it says here the mother Berg spoke more freely. Detective showed the mother picture of Dawson's injuries, and in response, she insisted her son did not have any such injuries when she left him with Alexander while she went to work that day, police say. So here she is trying to separate herself. I didn't see nothing like that. I don't know. It's all him. But we know criminals do that. They put it off on the other person. She's going to act ignorant like she don't know nothing. On October the 19th, Berg reportedly received word that Dawson had no brain activity and would be taken off life support. The emergency bond motion was filed so she could say goodbye to her son before he passes away. KDFW reports the court granted the motion the next day, which I would not have. I would have said, ma'am, you said goodbye to your son that morning. I wouldn't let her say goodbye. And you know what's crazy? And I'm not saying this in a mean way. Hopefully you having no brain function means you can't hear anything, because imagine the terror of a little boy laying there in his bed about to take his last breaths and the person that is abusing you is whispering in your ear goodbye. Come on, man. Dawson was tragically abused. The online fundraiser reads, and Dawson's great niece started a GoFundMe to raise funds for the family's medical expenses. Okay, Dawson was tragically abused. The online fundraiser reads, my bad, tongue twist. He has already undergone emergency treatment, and doctors expect him to be hospitalized for many months as he begins the long journey of healing physically, emotionally, and mentally. This has turned our family's world upside down. No child should ever have to endure what Dawson has been through. Okay. And it says here the boy's father, who lives in Texas panhandle town of Amarillo said his son was medically dead, but revived by staff at the hospital, in comments to Amarillo-based CBS affiliate KFDA. In the CT scan and MRI scan, there was found prior bruising that did not coincide with the healing process of the current bruises that are on him now. Wow. That's what the father told the TV station. He was beaten before this attack. The attack that killed him wasn't the only attack. There's prior abuse in the home. Wow. And even with all this being said, I wonder how often did the father even get to see this child? It could have not been very often, because even the father, like if this child was going home with the father like on weekends and stuff, like I would think that even he would see the kids bruising, correct? So it's messed up, man. Fathers, man, y'all stay in your kids' lives, man. I don't care how much money it costs. You gotta fight to see your children. Because I the bruising that they're talking about, the father most definitely would have saw. The father definitely would have saw. All right, we got a video coming up. All right. This case is not isolated. Time and time again, mothers' boyfriends emerge as perpetrators in child abuse cases. The question becomes, why are warning signs ignored? Why do systems fail to intervene before tragedy? CPS records, community silence, and cultural double standards all converge here. Society often demonizes fathers while overlooking the dangers posed by boyfriends who enter households unchecked. And that's a big deal. But I think, like with any abuse victim, the abuser always isolates the person that they're abusing. This child had to be isolated away from the father. The father would have saw those injuries, those wounds. Anyway, shout out to the Law and Crime Network. This is a video from them. Go over there and subscribe to them if you like these true crime cases and stories. They do a good job of covering the news.
Abuse at the hands of his mom.
Okay.
A 3-year-old boy is in the hospital fighting for his life after alleged abuse at the hands of his mom's boyfriend. But that boyfriend is not the only alleged monster in this story. We have new information about why the boy's mom is facing charges, and wow, the text messages she allegedly sent her son's accused abuser for weeks before this boy would be sent to the hospital with injuries doctors say are all over his body and in his brain. We're on the case, presented by Law and Crime. I'm Chris Stewart. Before we get into this episode of On the Case, one of the most watched shows on YouTube, I need to talk about our partner and sponsor, truthfinder.com. Here at Law and Crime, we use truthfinder/OTC. It is beyond me how a mom could be accused of what a mom in Texas is accused of doing. Not just knowing about alleged abuse of her 3-year-old son, but allegedly letting it happen. And just wait until I show you the text messages that Chelsea Berg allegedly sent her boyfriend that were just uncovered by police in McKinney, Texas, which is outside of Dallas. Her son is reportedly now in the ICU. Now, before I get to the Berg allegedly...
And I want y'all to, man, pay attention when you see these pictures and these photos, man. Don't judge a book by its cover. You see these photos that you would never think these things were going on behind closed doors. I think that's why it shocks the community so much. You see these pictures and these photos, and you just don't know that you are looking in the eyes of a demon.
sent her boyfriend that were just uncovered by police in McKinney, Texas, which is outside of Dallas. Her son is reportedly now in the ICU. Now, before I get to those text messages, let me bring you up to speed on this story. This is Chelsea Berg. On social media, she frankly seems like the last person you would expect to face charges connected to the alleged child abuse of her son. And this is her son, Dawson Zamora. He's a young boy, just 3 years old. He has a huge smile. It appears that Dawson lived at least part of the time with his mom, Chelsea Berg. Dawson's parents are divorced. His dad says he's now in the ICU with brain damage because of what happened. In fact, his dad wrote on Facebook, quote, "He was pronounced dead by the time the medical professionals could get to him. No one knows the full amount of time he was deceased because he was driven to the hospital by his abuser after being beaten and the police were not called," end quote. Now, he says that Dawson was able to be brought back to life at the hospital, but he is still in very rough shape. He says that the right side of Dawson's brain is unresponsive. Now, this
And what they said too, that stands out to me. I wonder if like, you know how like when somebody dies, right, they can do the time of death. Can they still calculate when he first died if they resuscitated him and brought him back to life and threw him on life support? I wonder, does science have that capability? That's what comes to my brain, is can they, because I know when you have somebody that dies and they're dead and they can tell by like the rigor mortis and all these things, they can go back and be like, okay, this person died between this time and that time on this day because of where they are in their current state of death and the body, you know, decaying or whatever, right? I wonder, can they still do that because they said at the hospital the little boy was dead, right? But they resuscitated him. I guess, can they figure out how long was that boy at the house? Did he perhaps die at the house? And how long would he have kept him there at the house before finally panicking enough to bring him to the hospital? That's what sticks out in my head. Would they be able to get those answers? Shout out Marcus Bain says the child has bruises on his brain. Someone was hitting this boy with full force to leave that type of bruising. Yes. Especially when we know kids fall all the time and hit their heads and stuff like that. I mean, definitely ongoing abuse, man. Just an evil person, you know, did this. Like I said, demon. And that's the guy right there, Alexander. He looks like he hits kids. I'm just gonna be honest with you.
This is the man who allegedly beat Dawson. His name is Christopher Alexander. He is the boyfriend of Chelsea Berg. It is unclear how long Berg and Alexander were dating. Court documents obtained by Fox 4 in Dallas show that on October 14th, Alexander took young Dawson to the hospital, allegedly claiming that Dawson had a fall at home. Alexander told his girlfriend Chelsea that he heard a loud thud in the house. Chelsea reportedly told police that she left Dawson with her boyfriend around 7:20 that morning. Then, shortly after, Alexander sent her a text about Dawson eating lunch. All was normal, right? Well, then Alexander called Berg after that, saying that he was rushing that boy to the hospital. Documents obtained by the TV station say that when Berg got to the hospital, Alexander told the story that he was in the other room at home and he heard a loud thud, but he didn't share any more than that. So that definitely sounds suspicious. Then at the hospital, Alexander reportedly got an attorney and stopped talking to police about what happened. Hospital staff reportedly said that Chelsea's son's injuries were far more severe than the fall that Alexander was claiming happened. Dawson's injuries include bleeding in the brain, bruising in various states of healing over his entire body, wounds to his chest and stomach, and even anal trauma. Now, Berg told investigators that her boy did not have those injuries when she left.
And that's the part that gets me. Anal trauma? Anal trauma? That's how sick these people are. And you'll say, oh, the mama says, oh, I didn't know. You fucking know, lady. You know. Come on, man. Kids come and tell you when they got a stomach ache, man. And you gonna pretend like you didn't know this? It's just sad, man. What a little baby have to go through, man. In front of people that's meant to protect you.
Left him in the care of her boyfriend that morning. And the new information that we are getting in this case make that an alleged lie, according to police. And I'll have more on that in a moment. 2 days after Dawson was rushed to the hospital, the man that his mom reportedly left him in the care of, Christopher Alexander, was arrested. He's currently facing charges of injury to a child, stalking, and tampering and fabricating evidence. He's being held on $210,000 bond. We'll have more on his criminal record in just a moment. It's serious, and it's important to how this case could play out. Now, on the same day that the boyfriend was arrested, the mom, Chelsea Berg, Dawson's mom, was also arrested. This is her mugshot. KFDA TV says that she was arrested on a charge of injury to a child by omission. She bonded out of jail that day. Her bond was set at $100,000. Now, we can see in online court records that her attorney filed a motion to change her bond. Fox 4 says that was so she could say goodbye to her son. Now, at the time of this reporting, it is believed that Dawson is still alive, but again, in very rough shape in the hospital. Berg was reportedly told that Dawson did not have any brain activity. Her bond conditions originally had restricted her from having contact with her son, which is why her lawyer wanted that to change. Now, it was unclear what evidence police had on Berg to say that she was aware of the alleged abuse of her son until now. KFDA TV
we know she was aware because the child had bruises on their body and it's a toddler. Unless you saying she ain't never lotioned her kid up, never helped them get dressed or nothing like that, we know. But y'all see those pictures, and then you see the mug shots, and you see how mug shots show the demon inside, these evil, horrible people, these people that walk amongst us as if they're human and they're really not. I'm telling y'all from now on, quit looking at these pictures, these people Facebook pictures and Instagram posts. Everybody should come with a mug shot. The mug shot wipes away the magic veil that they're using to cover up who they truly are on the inside.
Reports that police searched Berg and Alexander's cell phones, and they found some shocking text messages. Texts that go back multiple weeks leading up to October 14th, the day of the abuse that allegedly put her son in the hospital. There's one text on September 9th that reportedly says, quote, "He clearly hit his head when he fell. He has a bruise on his eyebrow and his whole jawline/cheek is bruised. You're reckless. He had progressively been getting more and more hurt with you. Leave me alone. I'm not blind. You're dangerous."
What? Let's rewind that. There's a history of abuse. I'm telling you.
Shocking text messages. Texts that go back multiple weeks leading up to October 14th, the day of the abuse that allegedly put her son in the hospital. There's one text on September 9th that reportedly says, quote, "He clearly hit his head when he fell. He has a bruise on his eyebrow and his whole jawline/cheek is bruised. You're reckless. He had progressively been getting more and more hurt with you. Leave me alone. I'm not blind. You're dangerous." That is what Chelsea Berg allegedly texted her boyfriend.
So that's what she texted her boyfriend, but she ain't know nothing. That's what she texted her boyfriend, but she still said, "Let me go to work and leave my child with this guy."
Reminder, in October, she would leave that boy alone with Alexander, who then allegedly beat him, putting him in the hospital. There's another text message that Berg sent Alexander. This one was on September 18th, so a little less than a month before the abuse that put Dawson in the hospital. Berg allegedly texts her boyfriend, quote, "100,000% serious. You bruise him, hurt him, and cause damage every single time you are alone with him. There hasn't been a single time you've been alone with him where he hasn't been hurt." Just a reminder that Berg would leave that boy alone with the man who she wrote that to weeks later. In Texas, child abuse by omission does carry some serious prison time. If found guilty, Chelsea Berg could receive 5 years, to life in prison. Not only did she seem aware that her boyfriend was allegedly abusing her son, she allowed him to be around that boy alone after that. Alexander also has an alleged violent past. Alexander previously was convicted of theft and unlawful restraint, and he's also facing a stalking charge related to a separate case. Now, Dawson's dad took to Facebook, and he claims that Berg knew that Alexander had a serious criminal past, that he was wearing an ankle monitor, and that he is facing accusations in a serious stalking case. We did see that Berg's ex-husband filed.
So she knew all this stuff. And this was insane. I know people make excuses, say, well, you know, she's a divorced woman, single mom. What else was she supposed to do? What she's supposed to do is not be selfish. And if you got to go to work and you ain't got nobody to watch your kid, you should have gave up your parental rights and sent your son to go live with his father, your mom, or auntie. The great niece started to GoFundMe, send him to go live with them. But I think she's probably going to try to pretend as if, oh, I had no choice. I had no help. I had nobody to watch the kid. No. Is it that desperate out here? You the guy came with an ankle monitor. Every time he's with your kid, the kid gets hurt. And that's who you leave the child with. Like, she's a piece of shit. Shout out to Marcus Banks says, she still didn't care enough about her child's well-being. She is just as guilty as the boyfriend. And I agree. She is just as guilty. She is sick. Something's wrong with her. To see your kid suffering and being abused and you don't do anything about it. Nothing.
For a temporary restraining order per Collin County court records, and there's a hearing for that next month as their son is fighting for his life in the hospital. Joining us now once.
Yo, what's up? Mirroring me 688. I appreciate you. Thank you for that. I gotta get some sound effects and stuff when people do things. I mean, I appreciate you so much. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Once again, to talk about this case is Nima Rahmani, former federal prosecutor and president of West Coast Trial Lawyers. Always great to have you on Law and Crime. The last time we talked about this, which was just a couple of days ago, the big question, I think, was, what evidence does law enforcement have to prove that Chelsea Berg knew about the alleged abuse happening to her son? Now these text messages come out. What was your response when you saw those texts?
Chris, this is the proverbial smoking gun evidence, right? You got to get inside a criminal's mind. And Chelsea Berg is a criminal. And not because she necessarily did something, but she failed to do something, and that's protect her child. And at least a month earlier, going back to early September, there are text messages where Berg is texting Alexander, acknowledging that Alexander is abusing her son. I mean, it's that simple. So it really doesn't get better than this if you're law enforcement. Obviously, you want a signed videotape confession, but short of that, this is how you can get inside a criminal's mind and prove that knowledge.
She's charged with child abuse by omission. And when you read these text messages, that seems to be exactly what this is. What can be her defense, knowing that prosecutors have the text proving that she is talking about abuse almost a month before her son ends up in the hospital?
This is going to be a very difficult case for Berg to defend. And even Alexandra, I think Alexandra would probably try to point the finger at Berg, but now with these text messages, it's clear what's happening. Alexander's the abuser, and Berg is standing by, allowing it to happen over the span of months. Really, most cases plead. I expect this case to plead out as well, even though they're both looking at very significant time under state law. There's no real defense here. How can you possibly argue that you didn't have knowledge when these text messages show you did? And really the only question is, does their son survive? And is this elevated to a potential murder case?
That was going to be my next question before we talk about plea deals and how that could factor in and how.
And I just thought of something too. And oh my goodness. I think this would be a great idea because they're talking about, will the child survive? But what if even if you kill somebody, say somebody dies, right? And we're able to resuscitate them, bring them back to life, right? And even right now, he's in the hospital, brain dead, right? I think they should still be technically charged with murder because they killed them. Think about if I do something to you and you die, I still murdered you. It should not matter if the hospital bring you back later on. You should still be charged with murder. That's what I think. I think that's fair. I think that's right. You still murdered this person. What do y'all think about that? I think that person should still be charged with murder.
Prosecutors could try and get leverage over one or the other with Berg and Alexander. But as we're recording this right now, Dawson, the young boy, according to his family, is still in the hospital. He's in very rough shape. You hope he's able to make a recovery. If he doesn't, how does that impact the charges? Clearly for Alexander, that's a murder charge that he would be faced with. But as far as Berg facing child abuse by omission, how could her son's passing impact the charges she faces?
I think you're right. I mean, it's clearly going to be a murder case against Alexander. And as we discussed last time, sadly, it seems like it may head in that direction if you believe Berg's lawyer that she wanted to have the opportunity to say goodbye to Dawson. I don't think it necessarily changes the case against Berg, but obviously it increases her potential exposure. It's still a potential life case because of the severity of the abuse, a 5 to life or 5 to 99 years, I believe, under Texas state law. So she's still looking at that amount. You can't be charged with murder by omission. Murder does require some sort of specific intent to kill, intent to inflict serious bodily injury. You can get murder if you show a deliberate indifference to human life. That's typically, playing Russian roulette or something like that. I think potentially the prosecution could argue that Berg's actions really constitute a deliberate indifference to human life, that depraved heart murder. Going to be difficult, I think, to prove based on an omission, though, that you can get to murder. I think what we would likely see is murder charges against Alexander and just an increased potential sentence on the child neglect for Berg.
For Berg,
if we can't get a murder sentence, I'm not doing a call to action. That's my disclaimer. But we could at least sentence her to a public ass beating. My apologies, my phone ringing. We could at least sentence her to, along with the prison time, a public ass whooping. I would at least be happy with that. If you can't sentence her to some murder conviction, at least that, a public ass whooping, and everybody get to come out and participate. Okay.
Berg. And I think often in some of these where you have two people who are accused.
Yeah. All right, shout out Mr. Marcus says, yes, I agree with you, Risky. You should still be charged with murder. Thank you. Yeah, that's what I think. He murdered the kid. If the boy shows up to the hospital dead, he murdered him. He murdered him. They were just able to resuscitate him. And really, did they resuscitate him? He's brain dead. He's brain dead. He killed him. My bad. I don't know why the video goes away when I do
accused of a crime. And one might argue that they were not the aggressor in this relationship. The other person called the shots and they just followed orders. Maybe there was a domestic abuse that, she can bring up in court. I don't know about that. But then it's like, you look at this text, I have it here from September 18th, and she texts Alexander allegedly, 100,000% serious. You bruise him, hurt him, and cause damage every single time you are alone with him. There hasn't been a single time you've been alone with him where he hasn't been hurt. If you're a defense attorney and you see that, I mean, it feels like even that argument that Alexander was the dangerous guy calling the shots, it makes it really hard to seem like she was unaware of any of this that was going on.
It's really hard. And, fortunately, I don't don't do any defense work. I mean, if I did, I would have to try to put on some sort of mitigation package saying that she was also abused physically, emotionally, maybe even sexually. Who knows, right? This is all sort of speculation here, but you would have to argue that she too is a victim and therefore is entitled to some consideration. Again, I'm not saying that's a very compelling argument, certainly not a good one from a legal perspective. That's not a legal defense. Just because you're a victim doesn't mean you can allow your child to be victimized. But maybe whether it's leniency from the prosecutor or the judge, that's really probably the only way to play this case. You can't certainly defend it straight up because the case is not defensible.
And if
You know damn well she gonna go in there and say she was abused and she didn't have a choice.
it comes down to plea deals, and Alexander certainly, I mean, if he is the one who did this and abused a child multiple times, he's the person that you would want to get. But then at the same time, you have this mom who knew that this abuse was going on, allowed it to happen, lied allegedly to doctors when she said, I have no idea how he was able to get these bruises, even though the bruises had been there for a period of time, according to doctors. How do you get a plea deal where she is being punished significantly, where it doesn't feel like she's getting off, but then at the same time, she could provide information to get Alexander, you know, hopefully it's not a murder case, but even if it goes there, if not some serious prison time to keep him off the streets?
Yeah. Shout out Mr. Marcus says, no, she does not get off that easily. In my book, she's just as guilty as him. She definitely is. And when she had the opportunity to turn him in, she didn't even take it. She says, oh, no, I've never seen the abuses, right? If it were the opposite way around, she would have took that opportunity. She would have said, look, he did this to my baby. He's been abusing us. He's been holding me hostage. He made me feel like he would kill me if I tried to leave him or kill my son. If I tried to leave him. No, she denied everything. She didn't come forth like some concerned mother that was in a horrible situation of abuse where she actually believed there was no escape. No, she denied so that she would not have to face prosecution for her crimes, which is allowing her son to get beat. To me, I look at it the same way as a person hiring a hitman. No, she ain't pulled the trigger, but she damn sure got somebody else to do it.
Yeah, no question. Well, look, I mean, I still think her cooperation is important. Let's not forget the text messages can be used against her, right? In her case, but you probably need her testimony in Alexander's case. I'm not saying it's absolutely necessary, but obviously if you can wrap this up nicely in a bow, put Alexander away for life or close to it, and what is really essentially a murder case, right?
Who be on these juries? I don't need her cooperation. Put me up there. Everybody guilty. I don't need that much. I already know where I'm voting.
And baby Dawson is either going to pass or he's going to suffer lifelong brain injuries. I don't know if he's ever going to recover from this. And she gets, double-digit years in prison. I think that's probably the just result. I don't know if it's, a 10-year case or 20-year case. I don't necessarily think Berg deserves life like Alexander does, but I think that's how you want to package this if you are the prosecution in this case.
If you're the prosecution and you know you have her pretty locked down, that if this went to, it feels like this would be a one-day trial, you show the text messages, child abuse by omission, and it's over. Who makes the first call to make a deal, especially if you're working a case against Alexander and you would like that leverage? But then I see if you're her defense attorney and you want to get something that can limit the amount of punishment she would have to go to prison, they would want to make the phone call. Take us inside how that typically works.
Yeah, I mean, usually the prosecution offers a deal to the less culpable individual. Certainly, if I was the defense attorney, I would be asking for some sort of deal and offering that cooperation, that bargaining chip. Again, not saying that the state necessarily needs it to convict Alexander, but it certainly makes it a lot easier. And it does show the acceptance of responsibility, the remorse. At the end of the day, she's a mother. It does appear that, she loved her child based on the text messages, even though she was allowing him to be physically abused. She wants to say goodbye to him. So again, very difficult to put on some sort of mitigation case, but certainly you would try to portray your client as being a mother who lost her child, who wants to accept responsibility, who wants to.
Whatever. I get what he's saying. He ain't on her side. Shout out to my brother, Big T. What up, T, man? What up, brother, man? How you doing, brother? Man, good to see you, man. Happy Thanksgiving. I did send you a message though, man, but happy Thanksgiving to you again, brother. What the day after Thanksgiving, man. But yeah, man, this lady, if she take any deal that offers her leniency, she is not remorseful at all. If you truly are a parent that care about your child and something like this happened, you ain't looking to get off. You're going to be so ashamed and disappointed in yourself that you wouldn't even care about getting out of prison. To be honest, you would want to be punished, wouldn't you? You would want to go to the top of a mountain and throw yourself off a cliff to know that, my God, my actions caused my baby to be dead or on life support. Like that's insane to me. To me, I don't see where a person in her position could put her child in danger, cause them to be injured and hurt, but she's okay with going home. And what's she gonna do? Go home and just act like it never happened? Like, what the hell? Mr. Marcus says it's definitely a 15-year or more case. I'm pretty sure it may carry more. It may, Mr. Marcus, but I have no faith in our justice system. I think they're gonna give her a slap on the wrist. I think come next year, she will be at the table carving turkey with everyone else. T says, I'm a chill brother doing some cleaning and throwing up Christmas decorations. Oh yeah, me too, brother, man. We gotta talk later on because I went into that biblical smoke room that y'all told me to go into, and they said we can't be celebrating that no more, my brother. All right, let me get back into this because that's a whole nother conversation. I don't even want to unpack that right now.
Plead guilty, who wants to cooperate, certainly will not bring her son back, but at least can get him the justice he deserves, and maybe that could potentially shave some time off her sentence.
And as far as Dawson now, this young boy, he's in the hospital.
And that's what I'm saying. He said the justice he deserves is for her to rot in prison.
I know his dad and family members on that side of the family have been posting updates. They have a GoFundMe page that's raised, more than $40,000 last time I checked, and they give an update that it's his brain was not responsive in certain areas, and that may come to a terrible decision that parents have to make. I know the dad has said that he has custody of Dawson now. What type of power could Berg have in making any sort of decision about, I hate to say like end of life care, but making that decision that you would never want a parent to make?
Yeah, we talked about it briefly last time, but I think what I would expect now that these text messages are there, that Berg's parental rights would be terminated, which would mean that it's like she never had the child. So she won't be able to make any decisions for Dawson. It will be his biological father alone who will decide whether to provide end of life care or even stop life support, because it's really severe neglect. And it doesn't matter what state you're in. I'm in California, but Texas, most states have similar laws. If there's severe physical abuse, sexual abuse, or neglect, that is grounds to terminate parental rights without any reunification whatsoever. And the fact that she's going to spend many years in prison, I think a judge would move that case along pretty quickly.
How quickly could a judge terminate someone's parental rights? Because I know in cases of restraining orders that might take a hearing to hear both sides about it, to terminate someone's parental rights. I mean, as if in the eyes of the law, she never had the child. I mean, that's such a major decision. And I know she's facing major charges. What goes into that actually playing out?
Well, there is a hearing. Obviously, you have a right to due process. Most states, like at least here in California, you actually are given an attorney. It's the only time outside of a criminal case where the government will provide an attorney for you because it's such a fundamental right, your child. So I'm not quite familiar if that applies in Texas, but these are generally bench trials, so there's no jury. So it tends to move a lot faster than a jury trial. You don't have to go through jury selection and voir dire and that type of thing. So These cases tend to move quickly, especially if there's an emergency situation, which there is here, because again, you don't necessarily have that jury trial.
Another tough question here, just related to the 3-year-old Dawson who's in the hospital. When you have a case where someone's on life support and you don't know if this is going to be a murder case or not, how does that impact the timeline of how the court proceedings go on, whether you know you're dealing with an abuse case or in this case, something that could become a murder?
Yeah, I mean, that's a great question. You know, if there was no medical possibility that the person would survive, then you can certainly still argue that medical causation. But obviously, if the person is alive but brain dead on life support and you do pull the plug, the defense will be able to argue that it's not a homicide case. It's just a severe assault or abuse case because, again, the individual was still alive, albeit brain dead.
Clearly, with these text messages, it ties, and perhaps Berg's testimony would tie him specifically to the abuse. But still, even though the boy has, according to doctors, bruises that are in various stages of healing, Alexander could say, I'm just the boyfriend. I'm not a guardian. I'm not a parent. I was in the house. She put the baby in my care. And a defense attorney could almost say, you have zero proof that he actually did any of this. How do you tie someone, and certainly the text messages will help, but how do you tie someone to an abuse like this when there's probably not video evidence of it happening?
Sure. The way you do it is to show that there's only 2 individuals who had access to the child, right? It was Berg or it was Alexander. And obviously Alexander's text messages show that it was Alexander. So obviously expect the defense to argue that these injuries happened at school or somewhere else, that it wasn't him, right? That's really the only possible defense here. But given the fact that Dawson died while in Alexander's care, that there's all these bruises, different parts of the body, different stages of healing, plus you have Berg's text messages and likely testimony, seems like a very, very strong case. I don't think any jury is going to believe that it was someone else and not Alexander that inflicted these injuries.
And when it comes to child abuse cases and juries, because I could see for defense attorneys, it can be really tough to try and argue on behalf of your client, especially when you have people who would see, these text messages. And I know this case may not go to trial, but what are the type of juries that a defense attorney would be looking for in a case like this?
Very difficult. When you're talking about crimes upon children, it's going to be very hard to find any juror that's going to be sympathetic to this. I mean, these are very terrible cases. Even when I was a prosecutor, Chris, I hated these cases. Not to say they're not righteous. They are so disturbing. I would rather, handle human trafficking, drug cartel cases, right? Violence that, I can't even describe on the show, than to handle cases involving physical or sexual abuse of a child, or child pornography. They're so disturbing that I can't imagine any jurors giving Alexander really any sympathy or consideration here.
Yeah, and I mean, it's just, when I read these text messages for the first time, it was just it was just kind of this speechless moment of like, I cannot believe that this was going on, according to police, for as long as it was, and that there was this awareness that both of them had. Nima Rahmani, West Coast trial lawyers, and former federal prosecutor. Thank you, sir, as always, for being with us on Law and Crime. It's a really tough case, but we appreciate your time.
It really is. Thanks for having me, Chris.
A McKinney mother charged in a child abuse investigation wants to visit her son before.
All right, we went over that video. I got more though from the
At 5, a developing story. We're learning new details in the case of an Amarillo child who was left with severe injury.
My bad, it was a buffering.
At 5, a developing story. We're learning new details in the case of an Amarillo child who was left with severe injuries from abuse earlier this month.
An arrest warrant reveals Dawson Zamora's mother sent messages her boyfriend about abuse before this incident.
An arrest warrant reveals a mother charged with leaving her 3-year-old son with her boyfriend the day of his brutal beating knew about prior abuse. Chelsea Berg is accused of leaving Dawson Zamora with her boyfriend on October 14th. That day, Christopher Alexander brought Dawson to Medical City McKinney with serious injuries where he's still on life support. An arrest warrant for Berg obtained by the 10 Investigates team says police found texts between her and Alexander discussing Dawson's injuries. The texts are dated over a month prior to October 14th. In one text, Berg references bruising on Dawson's body and tells Alexander, quote, "He had progressively been getting more and more hurt with you. You're dangerous." Berg also tells him she overlooked bruising on the child's genitals, quote, "knowing it could have happened at school and that the child had been staying home to recover from his injuries." She's charged with injury to a child by omission.
Do you listen to what she said? Do she think the rest of us are on crack? Huh? Huh? So he had bruising to his genitals. Mind you, one of the injuries that he suffered that they noted was anal trauma. She full of shit. Even if you thought this happened at the school, wouldn't you raise hell at the school? You would ask for the school to, like, if this happened at the school, any injury that your child get at school, you have a right to go up there and tell the school they have to document this and they have to write a report on how this happened. This makes no sense. She just blatantly didn't care about her kid. She just did not give a shit. Sick.
School, and that the child had been staying home to
My bad.
tells him she overlooked.
I didn't rewind it enough. But yeah, she's just overlooking stuff. Like,
Also tells him she overlooked bruising on the child's genitals, quote, "knowing it could have happened at school and that the child had been staying home to recover from his injuries." She's charged with injury to a child by omission, a first-degree felony. If convicted, she faces up to life in prison.
that's what I'm saying. Like, your kid got injuries and he's always from the school. So you just kept him at home. You didn't go up to the school and say, "Hey, what's up with this bruising on my baby's genitals?" And I'm sorry, I didn't know genital bruising was a normal thing that kids even got at school. That's crazy. Why she would supposedly think that is what the she's just the evil. She's just the evil woman, man. It's just sad. She's evil. So for Dawson, the child, survival is uncertain, but his story must fuel change. Here at Risky Behavior ENT, I exist to decode denial and demand accountability. Parents must vet partners. But in this case, I don't know if you could say that. She knew this guy was a criminal. She knew this guy. The father, her ex-husband, says that when she met this guy, made him her boyfriend, they had an ankle monitor on. And this is who she left her kid with. And we have text message proof that she knew the boy was getting hurt. She knew the boy was being abused, and she failed to act on this, even knowing her child had genital bruising. This child had anal trauma, and his mother did nothing about this. What a sick ass woman. Like that. Who the hell does that to their kid? To any kid, even a stranger. People would not ignore these things, but she did this as a mother. Chaos for You says women ignore red flags because bad man provide the tingles and she can change him. It must be something like this. Like, she's so desperate to have a man in her household. She was divorced. She gets this guy, and she's that desperate to just say, "I got a boyfriend. I got a man in my house. I got a man that cares about me." I'm sorry. I just cannot wrap my head around how you could see your child in pain and do nothing about it, not even care at all. I appreciate everybody coming in, watching the channel. Feel free to subscribe. Don't forget to hit that notification bell and thumbs up the channel. Put me in the algorithm. I'm gonna go ahead and play this other video by Law and Crime for anybody coming late in the building that goes over the case, and then after that, I'll give my final thoughts. This story just put a bad taste in my mouth, man. It's just the demons, the monsters, the evil people that walk amongst us. I just cannot believe this.
On social media, she made it seem like she was the last person you would expect to face charges in connection to an alleged case of child abuse. A caring mom in charge of a loving home for her children. But now she and her boyfriend are facing some serious charges after her son may lose his life in the hospital after allegedly being beaten. But even though the mom was not allegedly home at the time her boyfriend beat her son, putting him in the ICU, why she is facing a felony charge. We're on the case, presented by Law and Crime. I'm Chris Stewart. This is a story that's been gaining a lot of attention, especially online over the last couple of days. But law enforcement in Texas have been pretty tight-lipped about information in this case until now. We're finally learning some details from law enforcement about what allegedly happened to a 3-year-old boy. The boy's family has identified him as Dawson Zamora. You can see he has a sweet smile. He is just 3 years old. And it appears that Dawson lived at least part-time with his mom in McKinney, Texas, which is a suburb of Dallas. This is a picture of Dawson's mom. Her name is Chelsea Berg. Social media only tells part of the story too often on this show. Oftentimes you can see it be a flat out lie of who someone really is. Now it's unclear if that's the case in this situation, because at this point she is only facing allegations. But you can see that she does seem like the perfect mom who's there for her kids. Now, it appears that she and Dawson's dad are reportedly divorced. Recently, she apparently had been dating a man named Christopher Alexander. He's 30 years old. Doesn't seem like he had a lot going on social media, so the only picture I could find of him is this mugshot, and here's why. He has a mugshot in this case, according to police. Court documents obtained by Fox 4 in Dallas show that on October 14th, Alexander took young Dawson to the hospital, allegedly claiming that he had a fall. Alexander told his girlfriend Chelsea he heard a loud, quote, thud. Now, Chelsea reportedly told police that she left the 3-year-old with her boyfriend around 7:20 in the morning that day. Then, shortly after, Alexander sent her a text about Dawson eating lunch. Alexander then called Berg, saying that he was rushing him to the hospital. Documents obtained by that TV station say that when Berg got to the hospital, Alexander, her boyfriend, told the same story, that he was in the other room, he heard a loud thud, and then he rushed the boy to get care. But he didn't share more than that. And that is where things appear to get suspicious. At the hospital, Alexander then reportedly got an attorney, and he stopped talking to police about whatever happened to put the boy in this condition. Now, hospital staff reportedly said that Dawson's injuries, the 3-year-old boy, they are so severe that they could not have been from just a fall like Alexander is claiming. His injuries include bleeding in the brain, bruising in various states of healing over his entire body, wounds to the chest and stomach, and anal trauma. Now, Berg, Dawson's mom, told investigators that her boy did not have those injuries when she left him in the care of her boyfriend in the morning. That is according to those court documents. 2 days after Dawson was rushed to the hospital, and reportedly he is still there right now, and we are keeping an eye on his condition, the man that his mom reportedly left him with, Christopher Alexander, was arrested. He's currently facing charges of injury to a child, as well as stalking and tamper fabricate evidence. Now, he's being held on $210,000 bond. He is still in the county jail at the time of this recording. We'll have more on his criminal record, especially that stalking charge, in just a moment. It is important potentially to how this case could play out. Now, on the same day that Christopher Alexander, the boyfriend, was arrested, Chelsea Berg Dawson's mom was also arrested. Now, here's her mugshot. KFDA TV says that she was arrested on a charge of injury to a child by omission. She bonded out of jail the same day as her arrest. Her bond was set at $10,000. Now, we can see in online court records that her attorney filed a motion to change the conditions of her bond. Fox 4 in Texas says that was so she could say, quote, goodbye to her son. That is reportedly according to her attorney. Now, she was reportedly told that young Dawson did not have any brain activity. Her bond conditions originally restricted her from having contact with him. It's unclear specifically why Berg is facing a first-degree felony.
I'm sorry. I don't know how that's possible. That a judge would allow the abuser, the person that allowed the abuse, to go say goodbye to the victim of the abuse. If that is the case, if a husband beats the crap out of his wife and hospitalizes her, and they say, oh man, I think she's going to die, should he be able to go say goodbye to his wife? I'm just trying to figure out how that works, how that makes sense. What judge even approved that to say, yeah, you know what, she right. She should get to go say goodbye because, man, he might not make it, because she allowed him to be beat too much. And because of that, he might not make it. I want her to be able to say goodbye.
In connection to what allegedly happened to her son. Her ex-husband, who says he now has custody of both of their kids, told KFDA, when you hear that Dawson had injuries that show prior bruising, that they were all in different states of healing, he believes that means that this was not allegedly the first time that this boy was beaten. Now, as for Christopher Alexander, he was previously convicted of theft and unlawful restraint. And that's not his only run-in with the criminal justice system prior to the situation he's in right now. He reportedly is facing a stalking charge, and that's related to a separate case. Dawson's dad says his ex-wife allegedly knew that Alexander had a, quote, ankle monitor and that he was facing accusations in a stalking case. So the major question is, if he was someone who, according to the legal system, had issues, was potentially dangerous, why would she leave a 3-year-old in his care? In preparing for this story, I put Christopher Alexander's name into truthfinder.com. Not only did it show me potential phone numbers, emails, past addresses, it also has a section that shows criminal history. And in that section, we saw cases like one where he's accused of stalking and another one of unlawful restraint. At Law and Crime, we partner with Truthfinder and we use it to get details on the people involved in our stories, just like this one. But even if you don't work in true crime, it can be a great resource to give you some peace of mind because it's one of the largest public record search services in the US. And with the paid subscription service, you get access to unlimited reports about almost anyone. And right now, you can get 50% off your first month of confidential background reports. Just go to truthfinder.com/OTC. Now, Dawson's dad, Berg's ex-husband, he is going.
And a lot of y'all don't let that go past you. If you still out there dating and meeting people, you need to get Truthfinder. Okay? You damn sure do, man. All this taking people at face value, whatever. I don't give a damn how it makes them feel. A lot of times, we don't want people to feel like we treating them like criminals and things like that, man. But especially if you're a person out here with kids and you're dating, it matters. Okay? You're bringing people into your children's lives that could be a danger to them, that could end up taking their lives.
In public with his side of the story. He put up a post the day after Berg and Alexander were arrested, and I want to read it for you. It says, quote, I do want to clear the air and let you guys know what's going on. My ex-wife left my son alone with her now boyfriend. He was then brutally, and I mean brutally, beaten. He was pronounced dead by the time the medical professionals could get to him. No one knows the full amount of time he was deceased because he was driven to the hospital by his abuser, the boyfriend, after being beaten, and the police were not called. The medical staff was told that he fell off the bed. The medical professionals resuscitated my son for 8 minutes and managed to bring him back to life. He was then airlifted to where he is currently receiving treatment in Dallas, Texas. He is now in a medical-induced coma and on life support. The right side of his brain is unresponsive, and we do not know the full effects of brain damage at this time due to the amount of swelling. He is surrounded by friends and family with so much love and support. My son Dawson is not okay. Our family is not okay. I'm not okay. All I ask is that you keep my son in your thoughts, pray for justice, pray for healing and comfort over my son. He is loved and he is not alone. Now, at this time, police have not confirmed those statements being made by the family of Dawson Zamora. Also, at the time of this recording, Dawson is reportedly on life support. Now, there is a GoFundMe that's raising money for him to help with his care. And at the time of this recording, it has more than $20,000. Joining me now is former federal prosecutor and president of West Coast Trial Lawyers, Nima Romani. It's always great to have you on Law and Crime. Very, very sad and disturbing case that's still developing right now out of Texas. But I want to begin with the charge that the mom is facing, which is injury to a child by omission. What does that tell you?
Chris, there are always sad cases we cover here on Law and Crime, but whenever we're dealing with an injury or death to a child, that's the absolute worst. So in this particular case, obviously baby Dawson has suffered a serious brain injury, and his mother, Berg, is being charged with a felony by omission. And that's important because usually under the law, especially criminal law, you can't be charged or put in jail or prison for an omission. There has to be an affirmative act. But there is an exception when there's a duty or a special relationship. And that's what we're dealing with here. Obviously, mother-child, parent-child, that parent has a duty to take care of their child. And if there's neglect there, that could be grounds for criminal liability.
And when we talk about neglect in a lot of cases, and I'm sure we've talked about them, you see the body camera video of a home in disarray, or it's a child that has an aide, and we're not clear what the conditions were at home. But it does seem like she was, and social media only tells part of the story, but this loving mom. Her boyfriend, though, had run-ins with the law, reportedly was wearing an ankle monitor, is facing stalking allegations in another case. How could that factor into how she's prosecuted, knowing that she allegedly left this 3-year-old, though she was dating the guy, in the care of someone who I think on the outset we could look at and say was potentially dangerous?
And Chris, that's absolutely right. Obviously, he's wearing an ankle monitor. There's arrest for larceny, restraint. There's a stalking indictment. So this is someone that has had run-ins with the law, and I think that's absolutely a factor both prosecutors and a jury might consider. You're going to leave your 3-year-old baby with a criminal. But I think more than, Alexander's criminal history are really the injuries to Dawson. And I'm sure we're going to talk about that. This wasn't just one injury, right? There's injuries all over his body. There's dated injuries. I think that's going to show the knowledge and the neglect that, listen, you have allowed your child to be in the presence of someone who is abusing him. It's either that or you were abusing him yourself. So I think there's going to be a lot of finger pointing in this case, but at a minimum, it seems like we're going to be dealing with neglect. And that duty's there. I have no duty. You have no duty to help baby Dawson, but she does as the mother.
And reportedly, it seems just from what Dawson's dad has been saying is that she was the one who had custody of Dawson at the time that all of this happened. And clearly she has that duty as the mom in custody, but how do custody issues factor into how these cases play out? Because Christopher Alexander was her boyfriend, but that's not an official, he was not the legal guardian, it seems, of baby Dawson at the time. How do those custody situations factor into child abuse cases like this?
Well, Chris, custody is very important because who has access to the child? And there's two types of custody. There's legal custody and there's physical custody. Legal custody is who can make decisions for the child. And oftentimes, both parents, even if they're separated, will have legal custody. But oftentimes, especially when you're dealing with a child or someone who's in school, one parent will have primary physical custody. And that's important because obviously where Dawson was when these injuries happened is going to be critical evidence in this case. If he was in the custody of the biological mom, Berg, and her boyfriend, Alexander, well, they're the only ones who had access to the child. It's not like, You know, he was going to daycare. It seems like he was in their home. And if these injuries happened in the home, the only logical and reasonable assumption is that they happen on their watch.
There's still so much we don't know in this case, and of course, everything's alleged. I do want to read, this was from Fox 4, was the first station, it appears, to get the court documents in this case out of McKinney, Texas. But the injuries that Dawson allegedly has include bleeding in the brain, bruising, and this is the one that I wanted to touch on, bruising in various states of healing. When it comes to her defense, potentially, which apparently in the court documents at the hospital, she says he did not have these injuries when I left the house. In the case of that, I could see medical examiner or let's say doctors, not at the point yet where a medical examiner might be involved, but you're looking at bruising that is in various states of healing. What does that tell you?
It tells me a lot. And look, accidents happen. Our firm is in trial right now in a very serious case where a child suffered a fracture. And of course, the defense is that, you know, look, kids get hurt and accidents happen. But in a case like this, Chris, when you have multiple injuries over a period of time, that's not an accident. That's abuse. So that's going to be very, very strong evidence. Look, I expect Alexander to argue that baby Dawson fell and this was just a one-time incident and it couldn't have been a
yada 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 yada. I expect Alexander to go to hell with the rest of the fucking demons. Okay. We know what happened. We know the mom is a liar and everything, and she wanted to cover up her crimes. If she had nothing to do with it, we already read her text messages. Her text messages let us know that she knew abuse was going on. In her text messages, she accused her boyfriend of hurting the child. She said every time he's with you, he gets hurt. She even acknowledged in other messages that the child had bruising to genital area, is what she said. And she even said that, because in the messages she says, oh, wait, yeah, bruising to his genital area. It could have happened at school. But remember, I had to keep him home to allow him to heal. But the thing is, if she's a mom, she's the parent. If you think your kid was injured at school to their genital area and it's that bad that the child will have to stay home and heal, there is no report of you going up to that school saying, hey, my kid was at your school in your care under your temporary authority during the school hours. I need a report saying as to how this injury happened, why it happened. She didn't do that. She knows who was abusing her child, and that's who she still decided to leave her child with. Okay. So, anywho, my final thoughts. And I'm gonna get up out of here, and I'm gonna be back today because I got more lives to do. I got more recordings to do. I got shorts to do. I got stuff I got to do. I got to get on my job. Final thoughts as we close this episode. Remember, Dawson's case is not just about one child. It's about all children living in silence, in danger, in homes where love is replaced by violence, where humans are replaced by monsters. Christopher Alexander's excuse of a thud is symbolic of the lies society accepts too easily. Risky Behavior ENT will continue to shine a light on these shadows because silence is complicity. I am Diabolical, and this has been another hard truth. Loyalty is love in motion, and loyalty to our children must be non-negotiable. I appreciate you all. Subscribe, turn those notifications in so you can join me as I continue to bring awareness to crimes against children. That's what I choose to cover when I'm not covering other things. But here at Risky Behavior, I will always be pointing out risky behavior, and that won't ever end for me. Is what I believe in, and is what I will continue to do. I appreciate you all. My brother Marcus, my brother T. Shout out to everyone that came through today. Shout out to Chaos for You. Shout out to Mirroring Me 688. I appreciate you coming through and showing love today as well. I appreciate you all. Hope you be blessed. Enjoy your time with family. Appreciate each other. Show each other love. And just be there for each other. And I'll be happy. All right. I'm out of here. Peace.
Risky behavior.